In my head, all I thought was Division 1, Division 1, Division 1. I'm applying to all these schools. I'm trying to figure out where we're gonna go. But I had a really shitty highlight video. Like, I didn't even know what to put on the highlight video. And I remember I had a lot of inconsistency with my confidence. So I had a lot of confidence issues.
Why do you feel like you're dealing with confidence issues?
When I was younger, I just cared a lot about what people thought. I'm focused on everything but myself. 1 week before college preseason, the HBU coach emails me. He's like, I have a spot. Do you want to come? We obviously had a lot of really good players and then didn't get that much time. So I got an opportunity to go to Division 3 in Turkey. I get offered these contracts. I come back, I'm getting ready to sign. And then my agent's like, they want to take some money off of it. And I was like, I don't care. I just want to play, sign it, let's go. And then he's like, no, I'm going to find you another team. Once that happened, after going through all that stuff, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to just hang up the boots. I knew I wanted to coach, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, you know what, Amsg is just going to be I can break down so many little details for them that we don't get in a coaching perspective when you're coaching a team.
Where do you see Amsg going from there?
Now, after, a lot of work, in the year of 2024, we will be an official USL League 2 club and USL Academy. Starting, 3 years ago from one private client to a USL League 2 team, at this point, anything can happen, right? So we're always aiming for the best in our players. We've had 400 to 500 collegiate players come through and 40, 50 have gone professionally.
Welcome back to the podcast. I got my brother here with me. But we also got our guest, Ismaiel Alkayali. How do you say it?
Alkayali.
Yeah, we got Ish here. Your camera's right there, bro.
Oh, hello.
So we got Ish, okay? He's the founder of Amsg. We'll get more into what Amsg is, but I think right now we'll just kind of get into who Ish is. So what's up, Ish? How you feeling?
Good. How are you guys?
Nervous or what?
Good, just a little bit. I've never done this before, but thank you guys so much for having me on. It's gonna be
Quickly, wait,
fun.
how'd you guys meet?
Ish and I?
Yeah.
That was cool. So it was when I was recovering from my ACL injury.
ACL, yeah.
And I contacted Jerry. So we've spoken about Jerry a few times.
Good.
So he's my old coach. And I contacted him asking if he knew of anybody who could help me recover or help me get back into it. And he forwarded me to Ish. And I remember that conversation because we were on the phone and I was at my old apartment my freshman year in Irvine. So I was in my apartment and I remember calling you and I was just kind of like pacing around the room because this is like my first time actually ever getting working with a trainer and stuff like that. Wow. So this was kind of like something new and I never knew, I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
But you remember that?
I remember that, of course, because you were the second or third person that Jerry referred. And so, because he knows I was working with older players, and so Jerry said, oh, well, and again, shout out to Jerry. Without Jerry, there's no Amsg. He helped a lot, so I have to give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
He's an amazing person. But I remember he's like, oh, I have somebody for you to train. And then he's like, this is like my son, so you have to make sure you take care of him and everything. So I was like, of course. And then we got on the phone call and he told me about your recovery and everything. So I was like, for me, I was getting in the groove of starting to coach the older guys. I already knew I could do it. I loved it. But, as you get more, you get excited. So I was like, oh, it's going to be I want to make sure I get him as quick as I can up and going. I remember he's coming from the ACL injury. So that's a whole different
Different
background you have to have.
Do you remember our first session?
It was in San Clemente.
Yeah.
With Ethan.
Yeah.
With John.
Yeah, I remember it was a partner session. It was my first time. I don't know what to expect, and it was late too. No.
Yeah, it was late. I know it was
late, and he ran us through a session. I remember feeling so out of shape, bro. I was so dead after. But yeah, then after that, it was just coming back to training. Yeah, so that's how we met. It was through Jerry.
What year was this? 2020?
No,
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So I tore my ACL 2019. But yeah, it was during the winter.
Because it was a little bit before COVID.
Right.
And we'll get into that.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we'll dive into all that. But I want to get into your story a little bit. Born and raised where?
I was born in Denver. And then we moved out here to Newport when I was 3. So raised here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And then so, where'd you start off playing?
I actually started. My dad put me in AYSO at the age of 4.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah. So I started AYSO at the age of 4, and I played that all the way until I was 12. So I didn't really,
wow.
I didn't even step into club soccer until I was 12 years old. And I remember when I was younger, we were just having fun with it and play AYSO, and then going into club, it was like a whole different, subject and what you had to do. And so from there, I went club. Where was the first club? Actually, under Newport Mesa.
Oh,
so Newport Mesa was at the time there, yeah. And so we went to Newport Mesa, and then from Newport Mesa, I remember I had to jump around a lot, but who was the coach? There was like an English coach. I remember at Newport Mesa, and then one of the times there was a club called MKSC, which is Mohammed Kakpour Soccer Club. And so Mohammed Kakpour, he was on the Iran national team, and he would captain them in the World Cup in 1994. So this was like I was like 13 or 14 at the time when I joined them, and this was the best coach I had by far. Because he played in the World Cup. He's from Iran, so very strict, but very disciplined as well, and then helped us with soccer and everything like that. And then from there, I remember I went to Blades. I don't know, do you guys know
I remember
Blades?
Blades.
Wasn't Blades
You're
the one
supposed to go there.
Yeah, Blades.
Oh my god.
That was like,
You know what's crazy? Real quick, just to kind of tie with your story, I when coming out of AYSO, I tried out for Blades and Newport Mesa at the same time.
at the same time.
So
wow.
I tried out for both of them, and then I just clicked with Jerry better. So I
Jerry was at Newport Mesa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
then
great. He wasn't there when I was there.
That's
Crazy.
insane. So yeah. So, okay. So you went to Blades.
Yeah, Blades.
They got bought out later, no?
Yeah, they got bought out. I remember just playing for random clubs at the time because me, my dad, we didn't know what to like. We didn't know the club structure or anything. We just wanted to play.
Yeah,
We didn't know
right.
because at that time there was Coast Soccer League, so they had like bronze, silver, gold, premier, right? Like it had that structure, and we just knew that we wanted to play. And then from there, so I went from AYSO to Newport Mesa to MK to Blades, and then all these clubs were like silver team clubs.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know like where I was gonna end up at, and then there was actually a point from Blades where I took a year off because at that time we didn't have like enough money to play clubs. So my dad's like, you can't play this year, so you have to play high school. And so then for that year I didn't know what to do, and then
What high school did you go to?
Newport Harbor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know that we got some rivalry. But we went to Newport Harbor, and then that's a whole different story. But fun fact, I never made varsity.
Really?
And after I'll go through the whole thing because the story is actually kind of crazy, and I hope it actually inspires some people too that no matter what you can do it. So I was playing, but me not making varsity was my fault. I was a little bit too cocky at the time. I take accountability for that, but I didn't play a year after Blades. Then I went to high school. I remember I was on Froshaw freshman year, then JV sophomore year, and at the end of JV, the coach told me, like, we can see you being on varsity. So he told me at that time, you're going to be on varsity at the end of sophomore year. Then we go on the summer school. So we went on like a summer trip. We came back, try out school, and in my head, because of my environment stuff, everybody would, kind of like talk smack to each other and get in your head and say, oh, I'm the best, you're the best, whatever. And because they told me I was on varsity, there was no other sophomore up there. It was just one of my best friends, Caleb. He made varsity as a freshman. So I remember at that time, and then everybody that was saying stuff, I was like, yeah, I want to be on varsity, whatever. Then junior year comes for JV again. And then I was like, okay, fine. And then there was like 5 of us that should have been on varsity that they didn't take. So it became such a big rivalry between JV and varsity. We had a JV varsity game, and I literally got to that point. And then senior year comes, and I'm like, okay. At this point, after leaving Blades and then playing high school, you guys know West Coast?
Yeah.
At that time, West Coast was coached by Oliver Weiss, and they were like the top 5 team in the country. I made West Coast. So I was playing for one of the best teams in the country. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm playing here. Of course, I was being humble over there because this was a whole new realm. I jumped from silver all the way to premier and being in a team that's competing for national championships up. So, okay, I'm playing here. There should be no question that, make varsity. Senior year comes, tryouts, it's like a given, right? You're a senior, you've been with the program all that. The coach says, I don't make it. And I remember, do you guys know Harper? Elementary school or preschool?
Yeah.
We would train there. I remember he cut me and I left our meeting and I walked all the way home crying the whole time.
But did he tell you why or not?
So once I told my dad lost it, and then we had a meeting, with the coach. He's like, "Oh yeah, Ishmael's too cocky, and then he doesn't listen, and all this stuff." And
Sounds about right though.
I mean, at that time, of course, I understood, but then it was like, I just didn't realize I was doing it because I was a high school kid, and then because there were so many outside factors of like all this shit talking coming in that I was, bringing it back out, and it cost me, and I learned a valuable lesson through that. But that's what they said, and then we just said, okay, whatever. So I just focused on playing club with West Coast, and so at that time I was 17, and I make West Coast, and it's a premier team, I'm doing good, and then we're getting ready for regionals, to go to Arizona. And I remember at this time I was like playing striker, and I was figuring out my position, and I remember I had a lot of inconsistency with my confidence. So I had a lot of confidence issues, like playing in the club, because you're jumping, you're like, okay, I'm here, but now am I gonna like actually do something? We have our first game, I score my first goal, the coach is like, welcome to the club, I hope you score many more. And then after that, all of a sudden, just my level started to drop, so it was very, very weird. And then we get to the point where we make regionals, I'm getting inconsistent minutes, and then doing good in practice, but trying to fight back. Then they're like, Oliver lets me know, he's like, we're not gonna take you for regionals, and then they cut me from the team.
Wow.
And then and I was like, okay.
At this age, at this time you're 17, 18?
17, about to graduate high school. And we're trying to figure out, can I play in college? Like we had no really good like structure of how you need to play college, and where you need to go and you need to hit up, and so on. George Kuntz at the time, he was a UCI head coach. Now he's a Fullerton head coach, as you guys know. He was going in and out of our West Coast practices, so he remembers, and so on. And I remember there was talks with UCI, but nothing serious. Just like, can I play here? And I didn't know. And they're like, you have to come to the camp and stuff. So in my head, I was like, look at this, be an actual tryout. If it doesn't go through, no problem. And then I'm applying to all these schools because I didn't get offered scholarship, nothing, though colleges were interested, So I'm trying to figure out where we're gonna go. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I just need to get accepted into a Division I school, and I'll try to walk on. And in high school, I had an okay grades. I had like a 2.9, 3.0 GPA, and I kind of started figuring out the college system. You have Division I, you have Division II, Division III. In my head, all I thought was Division I, Division I, Division I. Obviously, we didn't know like you could still play Division II or Division III, and still move up. But at the time, Division I was the best, and I wanted to try to be part of the best. So I'm applying. I apply like 10 schools. The only school I could get accepted to is Cal State Fullerton.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like 1 out of 10 schools.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to get crazy. So I get accepted. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to walk on to the first team. I emailed the coach. The coach at the time was, I think, Bob Amen, and he's like, oh, you have to come to the camp. I go to the camp. I think I do good at this point. I still don't know camps. It's very hard to get in. Yeah. And then I go up to him after. I was so excited. I go up to the camp. I go up to him after. I'm like, did I make it? Right? Like you don't know what you're gonna. Like, I had no idea. So then he's like, we'll email you. Obviously that means no. And then I end up playing with the club team at Cal State Fullerton for the first year. And at this time, after being cut from West Coast, we had our rivalry club, Albion, which was in San Diego, which was head coached by Noah Gins. And they hated West Coast, and I was like, and they were way better than West Coast at the time, because they already had all these D1 commits, and they went to 3 national championship finals, and at the age of 15, that team beat Tottenham in England. They traveled. They had 7, 8 national team players. They were on a whole different thing. So from Fullerton, I drive all the way to San Diego. I go like 1 day, 2 days, I'm doing good, and then after like the 3rd day, he's like, we like you, we want you to be on the team. And I was like, I was like, amazing. First game, we fly out to Santa Clara to play Santa Clara Soccer Club. I get time right away because they had some injuries. I'm, doing good. And come back. This point, I'm driving 3 to 4 times per week to San Diego from Fullerton. Yeah, taking classes and going. Yeah, but I was like, you know what? All these guys are committed D1. There's some national team youth players. Like, if I'm gonna get better, get any college exposure, it's gonna come from here.
Yeah.
We play. They already won like back-to-back state cup championships. So I remember We go into State Cup. I'm getting time in and out. And I'm still struggling with my confidence at this point.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still playing striker. Then I played a different position. Go to State Cup. We win. We go all the way to the quarterfinals against Carlsbad. I didn't play any minutes. We won. We go to semifinals. I play like 20 minutes. We win. But then after this game, he pulls me up and he's like, Ish, like, if you're going to play, you need to play with confidence. Where's your confidence? Why are you're one-on-one and you made a pass backwards? Why are you not going?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, figuring it out. We play the final against United. You guys know United? They said they were a big club back in the day. No? Okay, they were big. They were based out of San Juan Capistrano. And we played them in the final.
Oh, I think like UFC or something.
That's UFC. They're black and gold.
Yeah.
So we're playing them in the final.
Yeah, they're big time.
Yeah, they had already a couple Division 1 commits as well. We're playing them, and then he subs me in 15 minutes in because our winger got injured. And then I play like 75 minutes into in the final. It's like 1-0, 1-1. We go up 2-1. They score the last minute of the game 2-2. Then we go into overtime. We score 3-2, and then we score 3. They didn't score assists or anything, but I played that whole time, and I was just like trying to hustle and be there for my team. Then we go to penalties. And then he's like, who wants to take a penalty? And for some reason, I always love penalties. So I raise my hand. And then he lets me take a penalty. And then we win. I take my penalty, I score. And then we win. And we win the whole State Cup. And we go to regionals in Hawaii. And then from there, he's like, after the game, he's like, welcome to the team. And stuff. And then, so from there, getting the confidence going, I realized like, okay, I can play at this level. So now how am I going to get to the next step to like play in college and stuff? This is where the story gets crazy. So I'm playing at Albion. George Kuntz from UCI leaves UCI and comes to Cal State Fullerton. And then I'm like, he has to remember. I'm like, Coach Kuntz is Ishmael from West Coast. I'm here. I'm trying to walk on. Can I come in and like practice with the team? I didn't know, like, you can't practice the team. And he's like, I do remember you from West Coast. You're going to train with us the whole spring. So he brings me up just because he remembered me. And then I have to shout out as well George Kuntz because he brought me up to the team. And at this point, I was 18 and I was still playing striker. And then he put me like in the middle, but like a 10.
Yeah.
Right. And when I got in the middle, I had no idea what to do. Right. Because it's so different from striker and not now learning. It's not like there's similarities, but your game becomes a whole 360 instead of 180.
Right. Yeah.
And so he brings me up. There's some players on that team that kind of like became my mentor and go through the whole spring. I feel like I'm doing good. And then he releases me. He's like, we think that you need to play Division 2. And then at this point, I'm like, still, I'm being a little bit ignorant. I'm like, no, I know I can still play D1. I need to like figure out. Because I was at Cal State Fullerton and I had George Kuntz like name that I played under him. I got my release and then I started talking to like 50 different colleges.
Oh, wow.
That got interested. But I had a really shitty highlight video. Because nobody instructed like you need a highlight video, you need to have your CV, you need to have this release. Like I didn't even know what to put on the highlight video.
Right.
My highlight video was from a club, Cal State Fullerton, not the first team, the club Cal State Fullerton tournament in Arizona. And I had like 10 assists and none of them were recorded. So my video was just me making passes, So they're like they didn't tell you, okay, you need to have this structure, goals, assists, this and this and this. And so I'm in talks with Wake Forest, Marquette, Duke, all these top schools. They're like, okay, we're interested. Can you send your highlight? This. Send the highlight, and then it's like, okay, like you would be a walk-on, this, and then some of them just would have replied back. And then all these other schools were interested, and then I had all these like interests. Then in a matter of like a day or two, no interest. So I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? And then I'm talking to Houston Baptist University at the time, Division 1, which turns out at Albion, the assistant coach's brother was an assistant coach there. Oh, wow. So I called him and I was like, oh, is there any way to walk on? He's like, email the head coach. At that point, the head coach at the time is Steve Jones, and then he's like, yeah, we're interested. We're talking for 3-4 weeks. And he's like, we're not gonna fill your spot. Somebody already took your spot. I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Randomly, the San Bernardino Junior College called me. He's like, hey, I remember watching you play at Fullerton on the spring. If you come to us for 1 year, I can get you ready and we'll transfer you to D1. Oh, wow. So I was going to take classes at Cal State Fullerton and then take online classes at at Cal State or San Bernardino, the junior college, play for them to hopefully get recruited.
Wow.
1 week before college preseason, the HBU coach emails me. He's like, I have a spot. Do you want to come?
Oh wow.
And then I just packed everything, and then
HBU is
Houston Baptist University. Now they're Houston Christian University. They're in the I don't know if they're in the WAC anymore. They might be in a different Southland Conference, I believe, Division One. And then, but at that time, we were in the WAC with like Seattle, Utah Valley, UNLV, Baptist was there, Cal State, Bakersfield, those teams.
right.
Pack everything, and I just go, and I start my collegiate career from there.
Okay, so
So that's a lot, but that's it's crazy.
throughout all of that, because you're saying that you always had that, you set on playing D1, but was there that idea of playing professionally as well, or was it just to play college soccer?
The big goal was to play professionally, of course, but I knew that the stepping stone to get there, I wasn't good enough to jump straight to pro. So I knew the stepping stone was I got to play college to get the resume and get the experience, and from there I can jump to pro. Because again, we didn't know like the steps that you need to take. I just wanted to play.
At Fullerton, what were you studying? Was it just like, did you care of what to study, or were you like undeclared and just?
No, I literally was studying like, I don't know why I did like computer science and then physics. I had no idea what I was doing. Bro, I just did.
Pick the hardest thing.
Yeah, my ambitions were too much. I didn't know like what to study, so I just picked a random course. I was like, I'm gonna do physics, and I don't know why I got a D in physics in high school. I just picked something random, and I was like, I'll study, but I'm trying to focus on soccer.
But then, okay, so then how were your parents during this time? Like, were they like supportive of you pursuing the soccer, or were they like, you need to study, what are you doing?
Oh, no. My dad was fully invested in me going, sorry, if my dad didn't push me, there's nothing. There's no pro, there's no this. He had my back the entire time. Like, if, the only time that there was still support, but when I couldn't play club was because of a financial issue at the time.
Right.
But in that travel, getting to games, all that carpooling, like they supported me thin and, in and out the entire time.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate to have that support the entire process.
Okay, so then you go to HBU.
HBU.
And how did that go? At this point you're 19, I assume, or still 18?
No, 19. Yeah, because I was 2 years. I was at Cal State Fullerton from 2012 to 2014. So I left the summer of 2014 to Houston Baptist or HBU, and there I was like D1. Now again I didn't receive scholarship. I got like a little bit of scholarship, but I was a walk-on essentially. So I went, and then I didn't know how I was gonna go. I knew it was gonna be competitive, and so I went, and same issue, the confidence was like, now I got there, but it was I don't know if it was a confidence issue. Now it was more of like a knowledge issue, because they put me in center mid and I had no idea how to play that position. I was always very technical, but I had zero IQ.
Why do you feel like you're dealing with confidence issues? Like why do you think you dealt with that so much?
I think when I was younger, I just cared a lot about what people thought. So because I cared of what they thought, it affected, I'm playing on like this guy's playing here. I'm like, no, I'm focused on everything but myself. So then it's like, oh, what are they gonna say? So I think that played a big factor on how my comments kept jumping in and out. But my dad always like helped with the mental aspect big time, because if I didn't have that in the back of my head, I could have quit. There was like so many teams I got cut from. So I remember Strikers Academy, I went to go try out. There was 100 people that tried out, and there was me and 2 people left. Me and this other kid. Out of the 100 people for Strikers Academy at the time, they were one of the top academies. Yeah. They take that guy instead of me, and I'm like so close but so far. Because now you have to start. And then I go to Pat's Academy. They want me, and then we go to Florida. At the time, USDA Cup happens, and then they're like, well, we're full, right? So it's like, oh, we want you, but we don't. Do you really want me? You just say, because if you really want a player, you'll figure it out. So now we know as coaches. So it's like, I think what it was, a lot of coaches back in the day, but obviously it wasn't, unless those the main coaches I had, a lot of them just said stuff without actually trying to help you. There's no real development.
So then how did your first year at HBU go?
The first year I actually redshirted.
Okay.
That whole year, because I had to make up credits and stuff, and so I redshirted there. So I was just training the whole time and not traveling or anything. So that was, I know the people were good, the coaches were good, and just getting to like kind of adapting to the environment in Houston, because Houston, the weather is atrocious and it's super. I remember preseason, 2 weeks, 100 degrees and super humid. Like you're in a steam room playing the whole time. So I had to get adjusted to that. And then once you get adjusted to and then in the winter, it's like freezing.
Right.
You know, so like 40 degrees you're playing in. So I got to adapt to that. Adapt to the playing style there. And then because now you're playing with, you know, Fullerton was men and you're playing with men at, you know, in the Division 1 level. So adjusted. And then I remember we had the end of the year meeting and they're like, if you would have been if you would have not redshirted, you wouldn't have played at all. And I was like, okay, fine. What do I have to do to get better? And then we had that meeting, and then in the summer I play PDL, or at the time it was called PDL, now it's USL2. I remember I played with FC Golden State Force. And then at that time at FC Golden, because I remember the confidence issue was still in and out. And then playing even at that here, because I didn't play, I still didn't know. But then I remember one summer with FC Golden State Force, all these top Division 1 players are playing.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, so I go train with them, and then I realize it finally starts clicking. There were some players on the team that were older that played at a very high level that kind of started mentoring me, as well as in Houston. There was like some of the players that were mentors, especially in the center mid position. And I remember they kind of started mentoring, helping me, and then it just started kind of slowly clicking. I'm like, okay, I'm playing with all these top Division 1 guys, and I'm showing that I can actually like be here, you know? So I go back to HVU in the fall, and we're playing. We honestly had a lot of really good players, and then didn't get that much time either. And then have the discussion with the coach again, like, you know, why am I not playing? And then again, I'm like worrying about other stuff. So I was like, I started over all these top Division 1 guys, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, whatever you're doing there, you're not doing here.
Yeah.
You know, and then again in my head, I was like, I need to transfer. I'm not playing. But then I was like, and so I had a decision. I was like, do I transfer and sit out again, or do I just grind it out and have this on my resume and actually do something about it? You know, like I'm not gonna feel sorry for myself. I'm blessed to be here. I gotta take advantage of the opportunity and then just see what happens. So then, because I didn't understand the center position, for every day I would watch games, not like highlights. I would just watch full games, sit down and do a lot of notes and studying. And then this is where the IQ started building up. I had a really good, I had a really good way of adapting to the situation, right? So once I started studying the game and I started applying, I remember I'd go by myself in the spring with nobody on the field, no ball. I would just visualize myself moving on the field and like running with no ball and like practically, okay, if the ball's here, I gotta be here. If this is here, these are the options, right? So I was just starting them. Because of that, I started getting the IQ a lot more, and then the coaches obviously would guide. I would annoy the coach. I didn't care that I wasn't playing. I was like, okay, if you're not playing, give me the stuff that I need to learn, you know?
Right.
And then I started figuring out, and I remember in spring, we're playing all these pro teams. So we ended up playing Houston Dynamo. We're losing 5-1. Okay, I remember we're losing 5-1. They subbed me in the last 30 minutes. And I remember there's a player, his name is Giles Barnes, who's captain of the Jamaica national team at the time, Houston Dynamo. He had his contract came from QPR. I remember I was marking him, you know, and I remember in that game, it clicked and I like didn't lose the ball once. I was playing at an amazing pace. Should have got an assist that our striker didn't finish. And like at that moment, I was like, okay, I can do it, right? And then this is the difference between, you know, the players of like, once you figure it out, it's that consistency that you need, right? And so now that I figured it out, I was like, okay, I know I can do it. Now I have to be consistent for the remainder of the next year or two. And after that game, the coach came up to me and was like, I remember this is when he was like, you made some really good passes, didn't you? Right? That was his way of like being nice. But I was like, yeah, like, thank you, you know? So from there, I was like, okay, I can do it. What am I going to do? Last year comes, I get maybe like 300-400 minutes. And then in the summer, I played for another USL2 team called Houston FC. And at this point, I graduated, and I'm like, okay, because I didn't get a lot of time, I didn't get any pro offerings or anything. So I was like, again, nothing. What am I gonna do? Same thing. And I ended up studying kinesiology. I got my bachelor's of science in kines, and that's where the background stems into Amsg, as we'll go over, right? But at that time when I was getting my bachelor's in kines, I got to work with some top physical therapists as well, and so that kind of helped me learn, like, okay, if I learn this for my body, I'm going to apply it for my game to get better. Right. Eating, sleeping, recovering, stretching, doing the right strength training, you know? Because I always had a problem with injuries because we weren't doing the right stuff in college. Yeah. But I learned that later. Graduate. At this time, all in Houston, all the pro players like that were MLS USL Championship, because there was no League One at the time,
Right.
would train together in the spring and in the summers. And one of our players, his name's Tobena Uzo, he was with us, went to Coastal Carolina, and then got drafted to Orlando City. And then he was training in the summer, and then I texted him, hey, bro, can I come train with you? And at this point, the players didn't really think much of me, right? They were like, yeah, you're cool, but you're not special. I understood at that time, right?
Yeah.
And then I trained with Tobena. He's like, wow, you've improved a lot. Like, you should come train with the group. And so on. And from there, I trained with him. And then all these pro players, there was, at that time, there was a lot of Houston Dynamo players, a lot of USL Championship players from all the teams that were based out of Houston.
Yeah.
So once, that same thing, that first week I played with them, I had no idea what I was doing. But once I adapted, I became one of the better players there. And then I learned, okay, I can definitely play at this level. What am I going to do how am I going to get there now?
Yeah.
Right. And so then I emailed a bunch of agents. I finally got an agent, and I got I had 3 USL championship teams interested. And then I had an opportunity to go to Division 3 in Spain, Division 4 in Italy, Division 2 in Brazil.
All through this one agent?
This was just all like around, going through different, but once I got this agent was actually super legit. So I went through him, and then I remember I went on a trial. He has like a trial where this guy that played for FC Dynamo Kiev, he played in Champions League. He runs you through tests to see what level you could play at. And then I remember I went through the test, and then he told the agent, he's like, okay, he can play USL Championship right now. And then maybe go up, So I remember so we had a meeting. He's like, okay, we're going to assign you. We're going to look at all these teams for you and then see who's going to take you and not. Then I had this huge opportunity, which, I regret, but not too much, because if I didn't go, there's no opportunity. But there was a team at the time called FC Arsenal Kiev in Ukraine, and they were 2nd division professionally. And I got offered to go there. I didn't go because I had a lot of injuries going through, but I was half injured and then half like, oh, should I like risk that? And if I would have went that same year, they ended up moving up to Division 1 in Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
And then competing in like for Champions League spot. So I had the ability to go there and play as a professional, as a center mid. And I didn't do it, and then I was like, okay, I didn't go, now where am I gonna go? Then at this time, after that, I get injured for like 7 months. I get a hip impingement. And this is how it kind of stems into how we built Amsg. As I'm getting ready for pro, I'm working on my body, and I know that if I get injured, I was going to become a physical therapist. So then I worked with this place called Polygon. And Polygon in Houston, they had a top physical therapist and trainer that I've worked with a lot of professional athletes. The owner, his name was Paresh, and he trained Kobe, LeBron, all these top level guys for recovery and nutrition. Right. And then Parth, the physical therapist, trained all these pro athletes for recovery. So I'm learning the recovery side, I'm learning the nutrition side, I'm learning all how your body works, because I got a hip impingement, certain muscles weren't firing, because at the time in Houston Baptist, we're doing 200 pound, 300 pound squats, benching, all this stuff, that no agility exercises, not activating the right muscles, which leads to impingements, and you have to know if you're quad dominant, hamstring dominant, glute dominant, and things like that, right? But they don't tell you any of this. You have to do a lot of it on your own. Yeah. And that's when I learned with the PTs, you're like, oh wow, it's not just this, you have to do all this other stuff if you actually want to play pro. This is, the playing side of it is just a little portion of actually everything that's under it.
Right.
So I learned that, and then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to learn all this to prepare for the trials coming up. And so I got an opportunity to go to Division 3 in Turkey. So we go to Turkey, and during the 7 months, I just focused on my recovery. And then after the 7 months of injury, I only had 3 weeks to prepare for my trials in Turkey. So I get 3 weeks to get ready. And then from there, I go to Turkey. Amazing experience, the level and the players that we're with. From there, I get offered another 5 contracts. Finland, Iceland, Turkey, in those 5 contracts across those 3 countries. And because, being an American, the foreign policy is very strict. If you're going to go to these top teams, you have to be amazing if they're going to sign, so I know that after playing with the MLS guys and USL guys that I could be here playing at that level. But I was like, if I want to, I'm not aiming for, at that time, as we know, the best standard is Europe. So I'm always trying to push for myself to be in the best standard, and then let me see if I can make it here And if I can, okay, I'll come back.
Right.
Because then if you get into the European system, you can go everywhere. You know, so that was the initial insight. So I was like, okay, if I go to Finland or Iceland or one of these countries or go to Italy, now I'm in the European system and I can go. So I go, I get offered these contracts, I come back, I'm getting ready to sign, and then my agent's like, oh, the contract, they want to take some money off of it. And I was like, I don't care. I just want to play, sign it, let's go. And then he's like, no, I'm going to find you another team. Once that happened, after going through all that stuff, and mentally I checked out, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to just hang up the boots. You know, so after all this collegiate stuff, you know, the youth to the college to the pro system, in the pros, I got offered, but I actually never signed. You know, because just all the BS that was going on, and actually I was never 100% when I got offered these contracts either.
Yeah.
You know, I was dealing with a hip injury the whole time, you know, and then playing with all these guys. But then me knowing that I was with all these MLS guys for months and getting offered these contracts, I know that I was there and I could have done it. And then if I didn't get injured, dude, who knows what would have happened,
right?
You know. But this all stems from this is how now Amsg got established, because in the year of 2017, when I was in Houston getting ready for all my trials, I was working like 4 different jobs, and I was like, you know what, I want to become, I can coach, because I became a center mid, and I noticed me as a center mid that during the game I'm talking to my players the entire time, whether in college or pro. I'm talking to every guy. I'm like, here, go move here, we need to do this. So I'm like, you know what, like I'm coaching my own players as I'm playing with them. So, you know, and we never had the right coaching. Only a couple coaches were the actual real coaches the entire time. Yeah. So I built Amsg as Amsg, which stands for, right now it stands for Alkayali Maximal Soccer Growth, because I was private training.
Right.
You know, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to become, I'm learning the nutrition, strength training aspect, the recovery. I'm going to take all this and do it for one-on-one. You know, so, and if you remember when you met, I remember I did Rafa nutrition plan. We would do game analysis together. I would go and then look, Rafa, stop losing the ball, you know, things like that. But we would do game analysis. So it's like so you really tailor to the player. Like, cool, hey, you have a great touch. Cool, you have the correct hips, whatever this stuff is. But you're not eating correctly. You're not sleeping correctly. Right. You're not recovering. You're gonna be done in a year.
Right.
You know, so that's like
how it
kind of started out.
Okay, so let's track back just a little bit. So let's talk about the agent. So he wanted to find you a different contract because he would be losing money out of the contract that was initially. Yeah. Okay. So what's your perspective now that you work or are starting to work directly with these agents? What is your perspective now looking back at that situation? Is it like, or even that, like, how did that relationship end with that guy after you decided that you're just gonna stop playing? Like, was there any more communication with him?
No, right after that, I was like, I remember, because my dad was involved a lot with this. Like, my dad was like kind of my manager, and then he's like, oh, you have this. I'm like, tell him, no, we're done. And so then he texted him saying like, done, and then that was it. You know, so once you just like, it's.
And at that time, you how old? 23, 22, 23?
22, 23. I remember 22, and then we became 23 at that time. So it was like your age.
So back then, that age is considered old, no?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. So in your mind, hanging up the boots, was that like how much did that affect you? Was it like because with that? Okay, so then let's talk about that. Like, was it an easy decision to make considering that you had the injury and then you're getting kind of fucked over by the agent? Or was it a very difficult one that you kept going back and forth with?
No, it was very difficult. You have to understand, like, from the age of 4 till 23, my life was like soccer. I would train literally, like, not to exaggerate, like 4 or 5 hours a day. And it shows you that, like, the quantity of training is good, but if you're not doing the quality, you're injured. Like, if I did 4 to 5 hours of that and I just dedicated 1 hour a day of knowing how to recover and stuff, I would have had a 20-year career just based off of that. You know, but not knowing that stuff, so having that whole life, going through that my whole life, and then like always being in and out, I think I just got like, I don't know, it was like more sick. I know it was making my dad more disappointed because he's like, look at where you're at now, like you're gonna give it up for what? Like he was like, he didn't like it, but he understood. You know, so that was more of like me having that guilt, like, oh, I'm stopping when my dad has invested so much time and money for me to go, and essentially we had it, and then I just stopped it, you know. So that was like the biggest thing of going back. I was like, do I want to go or do I want to just stay here? I haven't been home. Like, I've missed all these weddings. I missed all this. I sacrificed so much, and then should I really give it up now? And I was like, the injury is what kind of just like, the injury started, and then mentally my discipline started to drop, and that's kind of how it just after a year it just started tumbling slowly.
Yeah.
So
you know,
when you decided to stop, was your mind set on like building AMSG, or was your mind just like AMSG is kind of just like a side hustle?
no, this was like I knew I wanted to coach, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, you know what, AMSG is just gonna be at this time in Houston. So when I started AMSG in Houston, I went from 1 client to 40 private clients, and I just got the logo for fun. I was like, okay, it's gonna be private training. You know, then I left Houston and went to Turkey. Then I came here and I restarted from zero. So AMSG at the time was just like, you know, I'm gonna train people one-on-one because I can break down so many little details for them that we don't get in a coaching perspective when you're coaching a team. You know, like you can't, unless you stop every player, like, look, your foot has to be here, hips here, whatever the case is. I'm like, you know, I can help these guys break down all the individual stuff to help them for their team. So it's like, I'll be like that one-on-one mentor for them.
Right.
You know, like how my dad was for me outside of the soccer aspect.
Right.
You know?
Okay. And then I know this because you told me before, but
Yeah.
the M stands for somebody else because somebody else was a part of it, AMSG as well, right?
This was in the beginning. He wanted to be a part of it. You know, Mark Magana is one of my best friends in Houston, and you know, he was doing his own thing, and he said wasn't gonna come over here, and so then I was just like, Mark, like, you're not a part of it. Like, I know you're focused on that thing you can invest later, whatever the case is, but that's when I changed the M from, you know, Alkayali, or when I first started, it was like Alkayali Magana Soccer Growth, because he was gonna do AMSG in Houston, so we're gonna have a branch in Houston and a branch here. But he started doing other stuff, so then once that cut out, I was like, you know, he couldn't do stuff,
right.
yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna change the M from Alkayali Magana to Alkayali Maximal Soccer Growth.
That works really well.
Yeah, and it worked to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so now when you're here, is the mindset like grow AMSG, or is it still you're just trying to figure things out?
No, now when I get to this point, it's like, you know what? I don't want to work an office job. I don't, you know, I have a certain skill set that I can help other people. So I'm like, you know, I'm going to just build the private training program with soccer and involve the nutrition, strength training, and recovery aspect of it.
Okay. So
You know, so at this point, we're there, you know.
okay, and then you start getting players through like referrals type of deal, like Jerry referred me and these other players. So is that when, like, when I got invited in, is that like the beginning of AMSG here?
Yeah, that is like the beginning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, beginning. Because I remember at the time I was doing privates, younger kids, and then Jerry, I was coaching one of the Slammers kids, and then Jerry saw it, and then he told the parent, he's like, oh, like, we could use him to coach the youngers. So then I meet with Jerry, I remember we get coffee, and he's like, yeah, you can come coach here, and then I'll send you privates. And,
Yeah.
you know, he was a big part of it. And, like,
Right.
you know, so I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'll coach this here little team. But my main focus, and I told him, I was like, I'll coach your team, but my main focus, I really want to build the, but because I was like, I don't want to coach teams. I remember for some reason, I was like, I don't want to coach teams. I just want to focus on the individual stuff. And then, I remember the first client I ever got, Kenny, I remember. So I DM'd Kenny. I remember I went to Toka and I played Toka, and then I remember this kid was playing. He was like, oh, he's pretty good. Like, I would love to, I was like, he's good. Where does he play? I remember I talked to his buddy. I don't remember who I talked to. And I was like, oh, who's that guy? And he's like, oh, his name's Kenny. And I was like, oh, he's good. I was like, where does he play? And he just said Pats. Mm-hmm. And I remember I go on the website of Pats and like, who's this kid? Kenny. And I see like committed to Georgetown and then national team. And I'm like, oh, like, he's getting ready for this. Like, I want to try to help him be ready for Georgetown and stuff. And then I remember I DM him and I say all this stuff like, oh, I have this, and I've helped. And I was working with some college guys in Houston. So I was like, oh, I have trained with this guy. Like, I want to help you get ready for, Georgetown your freshman year. And then he's like, obviously he's on the skeptic. He's like, who's this random guy texting me? Like, And so then he comes in for one day. We do one-on-one.
What was his response to it? He was just like,
I wish I had the DM. And he is like, he like, the first thing he's seen it, but he didn't reply. And then I was like, let me just go in a little bit again. Hey, what do you think? Like, let's try it. First one free. Come see if you like it. And he's like, okay. I'm getting ready to do this. And at this point, I kind of start showing how I'm different than other trainers. I'm like, hey, do you have film that I can analyze before we do our first session? So then he sends me his film and I analyze it. I send it to him and then we do the private. You know, so I remember he was first. Then he brought Ethan Chung and David, the goalie. They were both committed. Ethan was committed to Wisconsin, and then David was committed to Penn State. Then Jerry sent you. So Rafa was number 4. I remember the number, like you know. So Rafa comes in, and then that's where we figured out ACL. And then I was like, okay, this is cool because I have that physical therapist background. I know exactly that. Okay, he has an ACL. We're not gonna do this because other trainers like do this, and they have no idea that's gonna make him worse. So I was like, you know, okay, we got this core group 4, and then we're doing small groups. We did like twice a week, 3 times a week, and we just started going like that, and then
and then with time it just started getting bigger and bigger, and then now we come back to COVID. So then
COVID changed the whole game, buddy.
So then COVID hits because now everyone's back home.
Yeah,
all the college guys are back home. They have no real form of training, and then this guy's just breaking the rules. Still hiding the group trainings. But it was like, because it got to a point where, because everything was shut down for a bit, but then it got to a point where it was just kind of like, all right, like, we can't just be locked up in our house. No, like let's go do something. So he started hosting like these big group sessions. Yeah. And those were cool. And those were good. Like there was like we had like Kenny, we had Leighton from
Stanford, Leighton. And then guess what? Jerry sent Leighton too.
Oh, right.
Randomly, I was like, I have a kid for me from Stanford. I'm like, Stanford, yeah. Go. Of course, we want to see, you know.
Yeah. So it was a good level group. And then when did that end up? Like, how did that go throughout that year?
So I remember we had that group, and then, you know, we started. So it was like became a group of 10. You know, and then I remember COVID happened, and then I remember we moved like 20 different fields, so we got our field. And then because Kenny came, he started bringing people, then you started trying to bring some people, and then all the higher level players were like, you know what, this is good training, like, you know, bring me. Then eventually we got to the point where we had like 22, 23, 24 players. Yeah. At this point I was like, let's just start running 11s. Yeah. Screw that, like, you know, let's figure out, because in my mind I'm like, you guys are going to be doing all this training, you're going to have a big advantage when fall hits. Yeah. And I remember a lot of the guys that came even as freshmen that trained with us for like 6-7 months straight, they ended up going and either starting or getting time as a freshman. Yeah. You know? And I remember that was like because we did 3 sessions a week. We did one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and we had games. You know, Carson was a big factor of that, of course.
And then those, like, during COVID, during that year, that was like, at least from what I know, was like, Ish was the only one really running the sessions. Like, there was nobody else playing 11v11 games. There was none of that going on. Yeah. So a lot of the players were like, it was definitely like, I would say like an advantage over others who weren't playing that year. Because, because it's either that or you're training by yourself or not training at all. So it was good. I think you definitely took advantage of that moment, which rightfully so. Especially looking back at it now. I mean, I don't want to get political. Anyways. Yeah. So, okay. And then after that COVID year, you're still growing Amsg. Yeah. I want to like get to like how we are now at the place that you're at now. Yeah. So like Amsg is doing really good things, and now is like has very promising has a very promising pathway now. Yeah, absolutely. So you want to just explain real quick what Amsg is doing now, like where you're at now?
So after, you know, where we are at now, after the COVID stuff and all the players coming from college, you know, I was like, let's make some teams. So we went into UPSL and everything, and then now I'm like, you know, like we have a amazing area, we have amazing talent here in the OC, you know, especially South, Normal, and then in Northern County, and then I made that jump to be like, let's try to get a USL League 2 team coming, USL Academy. So now after, you know, a lot of work, in the year of 2024, we will be an official USL League 2 club and USL Academy team.
That's it.
That's going to be amazing.
So how? I know you like this is you asking because you wanted to.
Yeah, dude, how'd you know where to start? Like this process of wanting to build a team and a pathway for players.
So I have to shout out another person that was with a huge, like he was my partner at the time, not partner, but he was like under Zach. You know Zach?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Zach Goodell, he was our social media person, and I have to give him a huge shout out because, you know, I was doing all the coaching stuff, but he would be in the back of my head like, bro, start a team. Like, you can make a team, and then you can make a women's side, and you can do all this stuff. And I was like, I just want to coach. Like, why don't we, you know, whatever. And then I was like, you know, we do have enough players. Let's just start a team. So we started off 2 years ago. We were in the, you know, guys know the Southwest Premier League team Southwest Premier League under President Matt Morse. So we hit him up. We made a team. We had 1 year. We go through the summer, all the college guys. We go undefeated and lose in the final. Yeah, you know, we choke, of course. And then we figure about UPSL. It's a semi-pro league. And I'm like, you know, let's go in here. All the college guys that can't play, all the free agent college guys, we can keep them fit and then try to find them a school if they're good enough.
Yeah.
So that we go into UPSL and then we figure out the rules. Like, okay, you need to have this. So we have the fall, spring season. Then we have the women's side going. And then all these teams are going. And I'm like, you know, okay, USL League 2, like, I remember we all want to play here in the summer because we can, if you play, like, I went professional because of USL 2, playing that in the summer because I didn't play for my college. I remember I would play the USL 2 with all these top guys and all my footage was from there. You know, so I'm like, it's another pathway if you're not, even if you're not playing at your college, if you do find a USL League 2 team that you're with the right coach and they do see your potential and you play a lot, that standard is just as good as anywhere else.
Right.
You know, because you're playing essentially with all the top guys from college or coming to USL 2, you know? So I was like, you know what? I want to make this. Nobody's doing it here. Like, there has to be a way. So I go on the USL 2 website. I call them and then I'm figuring, and I remember I called them last year. I just kind of, I was like, oh, what do you need to be in USL? Blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, okay, there's all these certain things. There's a lot of certain expectations that you have to meet. So then for that whole year, I was like, okay, let me just kind of set everything and start to do it. Then again, I'm like, okay, it's very early, but let's just try it one more time and see what they say. Then I go through the application and I'm like, I'm doing all the standards, and then it's like 3 months, and then I remember the expansion manager, for whatever reason, the night before, I remember I had a dream like, oh, that the USL League 2 denied my request, and then they chose another team, and I was like, dang, you know. And I wake up, and then like we're training, and then I get the text like, welcome to USL 2, like, you get the fish boy, and I was like, wow. So it's like, you know, you have to have essentially like, you have to have the right stuff in order. You have to have your team, you have to have the venue, you have to have the right area, right, that nobody else is there, and then from there you just kind of throw your stuff at them and like, this is what I have, can I qualify for USL or not, you know? And we had enough.
So ultimately it was just kind of like that interest was sparked, and then you just gathered as much information as possible, called, asked, see what's up, and then just put in your application and see if you get denied. The worst that can happen is you get a no, and then you find the next thing.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing as, like, I guess, like, as a player, you're trying to find a team, you're trying to find an agent or whatever. You reach out, the worst that can happen, you don't get a response.
Okay, you find another pathway.
Back in the same spot you were before. So it's like, there's no real, so that's crazy. So that's sick. So now USL League 2, USL Academy for your teams. So what are the future goals for AMSG now? Like, of course, you're focused on this new year. Working on having a good season for both USL A and then USL 2. So, but like, where do you see AMSG going from there? Like, do you see AMSG being a NISA team, or
not a NISA team, but definitely we want to become a professional club. Like, if we can jump up to USL League 1 or USL Championship, we're gonna find a way, because that's been the standard. Like, ever since I figured out we got a team, then I'm like, okay, I don't want to just be a team. I want to hold myself to the highest professional standard as possible, and I'm gonna treat the club as a professional club. Even when we were in the Southwest League, I always was doing that. So now, from starting, 3 years ago, from one private client to a USL League 2 team, like, at this point, anything can happen, right? So we're always aiming for the best in our players. We've had, Ralph has been part of it since day one. We've had 400 to 500 collegiate players come through, and 40, 50 have gone professionally. So now, just with with having this structure, we want to have the same goals of development and getting the players in the pro. For me, you can ask Rafa, that's been about like in training now. I don't care what school you play at, there's always an ego check, because if you can be skillful, cool. If you and this is, and I want to just shout this out as well, like you guys know Arsene Wenger from Arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, he has a book, I'm reading it now. He has something called 2 things that are so important, and it kind of stems into Amsg, because Amsg motto, now that
book, no?
No, it's Ferguson.
you should read it. Now I'm gonna send you some books as your collection, because it makes a big difference in the mindset for your players. You know, like now that AMSG is officially North Orange County Soccer Club, you know, we're gonna be the North Orange County base. We have to build a community for them as well.
Of course.
You know, so that's a whole other side of building the community for them. But as well, we never lose sight of our goal, the players. And for me, the players are the most important. You know, so Arsene Wenger, he says that there's something called invisible training and then constant preparation. And you can ask Rafa how I get all these little details that I go through. People are like, but they don't understand that these are the little details that actually take you to go pro. You know, and I, you know, we don't argue, but I'll challenge these guys mentally. You know, we've had healthy arguments as a coach. I'm gonna try to get into the players' mind, like, okay, do you really want to go? Do you really want to do it? And then the players also tell me, like, okay, we have to work on this thing, and I'm very open about it, right? Because we were all in the shoes. And the invisible training that Arsene Wenger brings up, he says about, you know, you can train in the field and do all this, but if you don't sleep correctly, if you don't eat correctly, that's the invisible training aspect of it. Eating, sleeping, recovery, nutrition, strength training, that stuff, you're not going to be able to play. And this has been my motto since day one. So it's awesome to hear that the best of the best are in that mindset as well. And then the constant preparation. So the values as well with AMSG, you know, A is accountability, M is mentality as well. I'm using it as A, Alkayali Maximal Soccer, but as well as our values. So A is accountability, M is mentality, S is sustainability, and then G is growth, right? So the accountability aspect, and this comes with constant preparation, that even if you're messing up, and this is why I had an ego, because I would never hold myself accountable. So I never really grew. You know, once I dropped the ego, and I was like, you know what, maybe these guys are saying something right. Let me just take a little bit. Let me hold myself accountable and stop. I was blame a lot of other people. I was like, you know what, let me understand that I messed up. Okay, what am I going to do to fix it? Accountability. Once I started holding myself accountable, boom, change of a career like this. And then the mentality aspect, like, and this is where the concept preparation goes. You know, when people come, and I notice this with a lot of the college guys, which drives me crazy. You're a college player wanting to go pro, and this is why I say for USL too, if you don't have the mindset to go pro, we don't want you. Get out, like go to another club and play somewhere else. You want to just play, go play there over there. We want pro players that want to go professionally. And the invisible training is huge aspect, and the preparation. So when people train and they go through the motions, I'm screaming for 10 minutes, because it's like, why are you wasting my time as a coach, and why are you wasting your players' time? They're not getting better. So they're not in a constant preparation of, they're not eating correctly, they're staying up late, they're going out, you know, like all those factors, the environment, the people they hang around with and surround themselves with, it's not constantly preparing them. They're just, okay, I'm gonna go play and I'm gonna go do this and then this, and it's just whatever. So that constant preparation of, okay, today's Monday, our game's Saturday, I gotta drink all this, I gotta eat all this, I gotta train all this to prepare for Saturday. Then that game day prepares for the end of the season, which prepares for pro. Right? Like it starts from just that one day and you're constantly preparing yourself. And that's why the mentality aspect for me is huge, because like I said, I got cut from so many teams. If I had a weak mentality or stuff, then I wouldn't have been able to jump all these brackets and go, you know, I literally went step by step. Yeah. And so with the USL League 2 team, we want the same for our players in the training, like, you know, and if they're not good enough, obviously we release them, but we don't just recently say bye, like, okay, you're not here, you need to do this, go here, and then maybe you can come back. Right. You know, and stuff like that. So that's the big thing.
Another thing that you haven't really touched on, but you're saying that you want to prepare. You want players that want to go pro.
Yes.
And you want to help get them to that pro level. Now, are you thinking of getting them to that pro level as representing them as their agents, or referring them to agents that you trust and connect with?
No, so now I just figured out there's a rule that if you own your own club and a president of a club, you can't be an agent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I have to make sure that now, and this is why the building the team comes up from like who's our PT and agent, that I'm going to make sure that I make the good connection with a very good agent that we can trust, that we know like that I trust him, that I know he has the actual connections, and if we actually have a player that's good enough, we're gonna send him to him so that he deals with that player.
Okay.
You know, because I technically can't. You know,
Is that something that you wanted to do? Is be an agent or not necessarily?
not necessarily, because I love the development side of it and coaching side of it, and like those little details that you need to become a pro player. So no, I'm gonna find somebody that, and we have somebody as well, but you know that represents the players in the correct way.
Yeah.
And actually has an opportunity for them to go professional.
I think what you're saying and everything I have seen with Amsg, it's a clear representation of your career.
Yeah.
Like it, and then it's very similar to like what we're building with, without a doubt. Is that I think what we build and what we want for the players that we work with is a clear representation of what we wish we had
Exactly.
growing up, or what the experiences we went through, like the bad example, the agent that you worked with, right? You want to now prepare players or set players up with the proper agent so that they don't get screwed over the way you did. And like you're saying, with the mentality thing, having dealt with like confidence issues, you want players to develop a stronger mentality to be able to perform their best ability. So yeah, I think it's cool in that sense, because you can see me having actually experienced it, been there, and the story that you told us now and before, and then or your career, and then now with what you're building, it's like a clear representation. I think it's cool, and I think it's very like even with like the whole like with you playing, like you were super ambitious. You didn't just want to like be content with a level. You wanted to reach the top. You wanted to get to the best. You wanted to get to the place where you thought was the best. Yeah. I think that's the same thing with Amsg. You want them to play. You don't want them just to be a pro team, play NISA in the 3rd division here. No, you want them to make their way up and play as high as possible. Now it's a little bit difficult here in the U.S. because money talks here.
Of course.
So that's a big factor. But I think it's cool, and I think it's very, like you said, in 3 years, you went from one private client to now being an owner of a club that is going to be participating in the USL League 2 and the USL Academy, which are two very like well-established leagues.
Yeah. He's created the pathway to pro, which he didn't have. He didn't know anything going into trying to go pro himself, and he created it. So
yeah, I think
it's very inspirational. I know you're trying to inspire like, you know, athletes trying to make it, but just us as we want to grow something like how you're doing it.
Of course.
It's very inspirational, and it makes me like. Makes me happy. It's someone local and we can look up to. So
no, it's cool. And even then, like too, like it's like it's similar, but it's like we're still like two different entities that can like coincide with each other.
Exactly.
Because I know that we've had conversations where you're like, dude, if you can, like, I'm gonna have an academy, you can have the players to bring into the academy, that kind of stuff, and like, so that kind of thing. And that's always
each other. You know, son of I've noticed, and I think I've got into that mindset too. Like, oh, there's these other trainers and stuff, and now I'm starting to, as I'm growing up and being more mature and being a young owner, like, it doesn't matter if there's other trainers. Everybody's doing their own thing, and they're gonna help the players in their own way. Like, you can, if you're smart, you can use every trainer to your advantage, and you know, like grow with each other, and we're all gonna be a community. Like, we're all training a lot of the same guys. Like, let's not be ignorant of each other and understand, like, you're focusing on this, he's focusing on that. Okay, so I'm going to send you this guy to help with this, or, you know, and like you guys are dealing with a lot of the younger kids and being their mentors. Like, if I know that our players, we definitely need that, it becomes like a team.
Yeah.
You know, so it's different.
It would be a different story if like we had aspirations of making a USL League 2 team.
Then you can get out.
But that's definitely not our aspirations. Like at least I don't care to own a club like I want to, like you said, like you're very like, now you're like, you want to be an owner of a club, but I still think it's still like very individualized, where you want to help players individually. Exactly. But I think that's our mindset right now, is just helping players individually. And it's always been, we had this conversation recently where it's like, we want to, and we got this from like having set up 3 of our players from our club team to go in on a training session with the MLS Next team.
Amazing.
We had them go and train with them, and then the coach really liked them, and so now we're kind of like gonna in the talks of maybe having them have them play with our club team for Slammers. There's one more season, but also be signed with the MLS next team.
That's amazing.
So they'll be doing both. So playing tournaments with them and stuff like that. That's in the talks. It's not certain yet, but that's something that we trying to work on. And that's ultimately like we're like, dude, we want to be like the agents for kids.
Yeah, that's true. That's
But, like,
amazing.
and
We
we're not-
never had that.
Yeah, and we're not getting like it's not like we're getting money out of it. There's no contracts or anything, but it's just like we want to be like those kids who are like, I'm not those kids. Those like like an agent for a kid.
It's like a feeder club almost. The same thing. Like we're USL Academy. Guess what? If you have a baller, I'm gonna be like, Rafa, can we, and not steal the kid? Like, can we use them and then you guys develop them still in it, and it's that same thing.
I think it's even perfect too because the USL Academy is growing and it's getting more popular. It's getting more recognized. So it's even now having a direct club to be able to bring these players into as well. And I think it's cool. And and then that player agent too, like help even get to college. Exactly. That's something that they want to do, help high schoolers get into college. So that's like some aspirations that we have. Like, so it's kind of that like step before what you're doing. It's like you're doing the help these players get to the pro level.
Exactly.
Where like doing like the help these players get to the highest level in high school, highest level in high school. Exactly. Right. So it's cool. I think it was really cool to get into and a little bit more into your story because I've known you for a while, but we've never really dove really deep into your story. Do you think we missed anything that you feel like you want to add? Whether that's your story, Amsg.
No, I think we covered a lot of the aspects. We just want to let it be known we're gonna be starting season in for the USL2 and Academy in the summer and we're gonna try our best to make not only an amazing team and develop the college guys, but also make an amazing, community in North Orange County. So we want to let people know that are around that area, you have a local pre-professional club that you can come support. And our venue is gonna be Westminster High School, beautiful venue, beautiful high school. We're gonna have a lot of fun stuff, and we're gonna start once the announcements go on. We're gonna start having a lot of community events to make sure that we get that community involved. We get some of the youth kids involved in wanting, you guys, I'm going to talk to you guys as well, but getting your kids to come to the games and walk out with the players or things like that from the, so we want to build not only a top pre-professional organization in the country, but also an amazing community, kind of OCSC with the USL Championship, and they have the whole Orange County. We want to be like that in the north side. And, that's going to be.
What age groups do you have for the academy right now?
Right now, I have the U19 Academy, and then with USL, it's technically U20. So that will be U20, but you can have 16, 15, 14. But then we're essentially going to build, it's going to be first team, second team, U17, U15, U13. So we want to stop at U13, and just kind of have it like a European system.
Okay. Nice. And then holding any trials soon. This will be up in January 16th. So any trials after that, or the trials have already happened?
No, so the official tryouts for the USL League 2 team will be in February. Okay. And once this drops and the announcement drops, we'll have an official tryout in February for a couple of days and see if we can pick up any top talents from there.
And then any for the academy? No trials for the academy?
The academy as well. I need to figure out what, but we're definitely going to have tryouts for that and soon.
Yeah, perfect. All right. You got anything?
No. Where can they find you?
Oh yeah. Our Instagram is AMSGFC, and then our Twitter handle or the X account is the same. TikTok is the same. We just because now we're gonna put it all on that stuff. So the Instagram, X account, TikTok is all gonna be AMSGFC, and the website will be AMSGFootballClub.org and football FUTBOL.
Nice. Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Outro.
That's good. All right. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys found some inspiration from Isha's story. Check him out. There's a lot of good things gonna happen. This is 2024, 2025 in the future. So be on the lookout. And if you want to be a part of it, sure, reach out to him, DM him. I think probably the best way to get to you, email maybe. But yeah, follow us on Instagram at without a doubt _athletics. And yeah, thanks for watching.